So we're going to look at 2.2 day 2 word problems right now. And so today, obviously, with it being day 2, our focus is word problems, or our word problems. But we're going to go ahead and do this first part, numbers 1 and 2, as a warm up. So go ahead and pause the video and work on that one for me, please. All right, so at this point, these would be the answers that you would be able to use and to see. There are a couple different options, so I'm just going to walk you through it. Number one, I'm going to bet that most of you probably solved for y, and you would have gotten y equals 2/3 x, and that's it. Okay, 2/3 x plus 0, or however you wanted to write it. So that's totally fine because then you start at 0 and then you move up 2 over 3 and then there's your graph, right? But sometimes you're not going to be able to see that, such as if your y-intercept was like 20, right? How do I graph something on a graph like this if my y-intercept is 20 and then I had to move? So keep that in mind. You will have to be able to pull out the points like I just showed you here. When you do that, it's always opposite of the signs that you think it is, and it's flipped around, right? Because your points are always x comma y. So the one with the x is a positive 3, the one with the y is a positive 2. You have 3, 2. So what I did is I plotted that point first, which is right here, and then you move 2/3 to get the rest of your graph. On number 2, in the blue, you can see that I solved for slope. Remember, you subtract the y's over the x's. So you could do 10 minus 4 over 2 minus -1, or you could have done 4 minus 10 over -1 minus 2. Either way, you would have gotten 3/2. If you just use 6 over 4, make sure you reduce. So that makes it easy to plug into point slope. Remember, I would prefer for you to use that first point and get this answer, but you could get the other one as well. In the pink, I solved for y to get your slope-intercept form, okay? I'm not picking on whether it's fractions or decimals, except for slope, it has to be a fraction for slope. So let's talk about the applications in general for this. So for number 3, it says a construction company charges $15 per hour. So again, anytime you see per hour, that's talking about slope, right? That's your M, okay, for debris removal, plus a one-time fee for the use of the dumpster. The total cost for 9 hours of service is $195. Let X represent the number of hours and Y represent the total cost. Write an equation in point slope form, okay, point slope form, to represent the total cost for X. Okay, so the big thing is, I know it's going to be Y minus something, right? And it says Y is representing the total cost. Well, the total cost was $195. Like I said, we have that $15 that is your slope. Anytime you're talking about per hour or per second or things like that, that's slope. And then we have X minus the hours because it says it's the number of hours. So it would be -9. And that would end up being our equation. For number 4, right, it says an event facility has a banquet hall that can hold up to 250 people. Notice how that's on your X's, right? Number of guests. The price for that party includes the cost of the room rental plus the cost of the meal for each guest. Marissa is planning an event for 75 people. She has budgeted $1,200 for the party. Will it be enough? So we're basing it off of this line that we have here. So we're going to have to find the equation of that line. Now, yes, it kind of looks like it goes through 0, but you're not 100% sure. So what I would do instead is use the points that you have. Obviously, the X's are clearly marked and the Y's are marked in these spots. Okay, so I'm going to use the 2 that would be between what we're looking for. So if we wanted to find slope, which again, remember, is change in Y over change in X, we would have 1325 minus 725 for your y's, and 100 minus 50. So then all we have to do is subtract and reduce. 1325 minus 725 gives me 600. And then 600 divided by 50 gives me 12. So now that I have the slope, I can use the points to write it in point slope form. So I'm going to use this 50 and 725. So if I do that, I get y minus 725 equals 2 times x minus 50. Now I could use any point on this line or on this chart. I'm just using this one because it's close-ish to that 75, right? So now I need to know if she's budgeted enough for the party, right? So for 75 guests, I'm going to go ahead and solve for y because I think it'll be easier in the long run. So we multiply by 2, y minus 725 equals 2x minus 100. And then we're going to go ahead and add 725. And we get y equals 2x plus 625. At this point, I need to know how much it's going to cost for 75 guests. So again, x is representing guests. So we have y equals 2 times 75 plus 625. Well, 2 times 75 ends up giving you 150. If you add 625 to it, it is $775. If we base our answer off of that, she has budgeted 1,200 for the party, which clearly is enough. Music Mania charges its customers a monthly fee for access to their music library, and then an additional fee for each song they downloaded. Vern downloads 30 songs in February. How much should he expect to pay for each song? How much for the access to the library? So again, when we're looking at this, we're going to try to come up with some sort of equation here. Okay. Now again, he is doing 30 songs. So 30 would be somewhere in between the 25 and 40. So because I know it's going to be somewhere in between there, I'm going to use these 2 points. Could you use the 10 and the 100? Absolutely. You would end up with a similar answer, but we're going to use these two. Okay. So I am going to try to find the equation of the line of that. So again, we're going to find slope first. So 40, nope, let's try this again. Y is first. So 72 minus 4950 over 45 minus 20, sorry, 40 minus 25. If we subtract the top two, we get 22.5. And then if we do that divided by 15, we end up getting 15. I'm sorry, 1.5. Let's try that again. It's like that didn't make sense. So I do want to convert this to a fraction because slope is a fraction. So we're talking about 3 over 2. Now that we have that, we can use either point that we have to write our equation. I'm going to use the first one. Actually, no, because I don't want to deal with that decimal. So let's use 72 and 40. So y minus 72 equals 3 halves x minus 40. We're going to go ahead and distribute. So we have 3 halves, and then we would end up getting 60 here because 3 times 4 is 120, divided by 2 is 6. And then we add in our 72 the other side, which we get 3 halves x plus 12. Okay, so First off, it says how much do you expect to pay for each song? Well, X is representing the number of songs. So we can take this equation and plug in 30 for X. That ends up giving us 90 divided by 2, which is 45. If you add 12 to it, we get 57. So he should expect to pay $57. They also ask for how much is the access to the library. And it says that that is a monthly fee. So if we look at our equation, all we have to do is notice that there's always going to be a $12 fee. That $12 is going to be your monthly fee for access to the library. Okay, so as you can see, you have to come up with some sort of equation, and you can use different points, and you could end up with the same answer. But you want to try to use points that are close to where you're trying to find. So when it was 75, we took 50 and 100, right? Because those are close. Same thing with the number of songs. I want 30, and we have one of 25 and one of 40, so let's use those two. Okay, so you're using ones that are close to it so that you know it's going to be pretty accurate. Does it really matter in the end? Not necessarily, but keep that in mind, okay? Big thing, once again, just make sure we know how to graph it without solving for y, because that will be something you'll be asked in the future.